Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the Human Services Committee meeting started at 1:40. Yes, we're starting as a subcommittee. Okay. So welcome to the April 24th hearing of the Assembly Human Services Committee. Today we have 22 bills up, 7 of which are on consent. Please note that item number 22, AB 3161, has been pulled from the agenda by the author. We allow two witnesses in support and 2 witnesses in opposition for each bill. Each of these witnesses should limit their testimony to 2 minutes. Any additional witnesses may add on their support or opposition by stating only their name and organization. Given the length of today's agenda, we ask that you please honor these time limits out of respect for everyone who is here to testify today. It's going to be a really crazy meeting. We'll have authors in and out, and so we have to be really flexible today. As a courtesy to Mr. Stone and his witnesses, I will be allowing him to present out of order today by going first. Thank you, Mr. Stone, for being here. You may go ahead and begin.
Number 17.
It's item number 17, AB 3006.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as my witnesses come up, I want to thank you for the flexibility. Unfortunately, our hearing rooms and our processes are not really set up to have the participation of the deaf and the hard of hearing, and so the special order is really to make sure that we have an interpreter here, because this bill is about deaf and hard of hearing individuals throughout California. As we know, under state law and federal law, that they have benefits and rights of access, which is very, very appropriate. But within our human services arenas across the different counties, those rights are not always very well respected. And we've been working hard in the legislature to ensure language access and ensure access by everyone. And we seem to not always remember the deaf and the hard of hearing. So what AB 3006 would require is a deaf and hard of hearing coordinator in each county and a statewide coordinator or a statewide manager to ensure that every county organization or that the human services functions across the state are meeting the needs of the deaf and hard of hearing. And this is really acute when in very dramatic situations when somebody's potentially having a child removed from a house and a social worker comes, sheriff comes, and others come to talk to that family and assess the situation. If the parents or even the child is deaf or hard of hearing, it's not easy to communicate with them. They may not be able to stand up for themselves, represent themselves, or give the county workers an accurate picture of what's happening, and that could definitely prejudice the situation merely because of a lack of communication. That's what this bill is about, is ensuring that the deaf and hard of hearing, that each county has processes in place, ensures that the deaf and hard of hearing can be accommodated in whatever the functions are in the social services realm. I do have some witnesses in support, and I ask for your aye votes.
Thank you. Before we begin with the testimony, I would like to establish quorum. Can you call the roll, please? Or
Rubio,
aye. Or here.
Dr. Choi,
Here.
Arambula, Mainshine, Reyes, here. Stone,
Here.
Thurman. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum, and you can.
Evelyn Abu Hassan with Disability Rights California. We are the sponsors of the bill. We think it's a critically important bill. We've been working with stakeholders to address questions about the bill. What I'd like to do is defer my time over to our technical witness, Deborah Gettleman from our office, who's been working with us to draft language and address any questions with the legislation.
Thank you. As Evelyn mentioned, my name is Deborah Gettleman. I'm a supervising attorney in our Oakland office. I want to start by thanking the author, Assemblymember Stone, and the chair and members of the committee for an opportunity to testify today. The issue that we're trying to address in this bill came to my attention several years ago when we had several deaf consumers contact our intake line with complaints about fears of losing their children because they weren't being equally and effectively accommodated in their interactions with CPS. For example, we had a client who was in Sacramento County and was required to go to parenting classes. The parenting classes she was referred to refused to provide an interpreter. The county refused to step in as well. The parent ended up sitting through parenting classes, not able to understand at all what was happening, but knew that it was a mandate and did it anyway, so as not to risk reunification. In addition, we have had clients inform us that it was acknowledged in their file that there was no, quote, no language spoken in the home, only because they signed and there was no verbal communication, which is obviously problematic. ASL is a robust language. And then finally, parents telling us that when the county caseworkers would come and observe their interactions with their children, they wouldn't bring interpreters, no idea what was going on between parent and child, and no idea of deaf culture and the importance of kind of gesticulating and also facial features and just kind of inferring things that might be very inaccurate from that interaction. This issue about lack of accommodations with Child Protective Services is well known in the deaf community. This is something that the National Association of the Deaf, which is the preeminent civil rights legal agency in the United States of, by, and for people who are deaf, they've written a position statement on this. And the position statement refers kind of everyone in the country to look at the LA County Deaf Services Unit for a model. And so we're lucky in California, we have this beautiful model in LA. They have a special unit that is specifically for families who are deaf. They have 5 to 7 caseworkers who are fluent in sign. Deaf families who come through the system are assigned specifically to those caseworkers. And so we tried to do that with this bill. Also, the issue of accommodating parents with disabilities was investigated by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Justice. And in 2016, they authored technical assistance on the importance of accommodating parents with disabilities, in particular deaf parents. That's a wonderful report, and the goal was to provide guidance to local child welfare agencies and courts on what needs to be accommodated, or excuse me, how best to accommodate. So, as Assembly Person Stone mentioned, that the law is really clear. The law's been around for a while, but unfortunately, sometimes the law isn't implemented in the way that it should. So what this bill does is it hopes to address kind of oversight, ensuring people don't fall through the cracks, that when they're accommodated not just the first time that they interact with the department, but they're accommodated every single time, that there is there's consistency in who they're interacting with, there's adequate training on deaf culture and options for accommodations, and also that they're communicating with someone who either is fluent in sign themselves or is acknowledges that they need to bring on an interpreter, and so communication remains equal and effective.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon. Henry Contreras with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. We are in strong support.
Good afternoon. I'm Janelle Lewis. I serve on California's State Council on Developmental Disabilities, and the State Council is in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Kathy Sunderling from the County Welfare Directors Association. We currently have a support and concept on the legislation. We 100% agree that ensuring that the accommodations and access are there is critical. Have been working with the sponsors actively on a few amendments to make it work technically on the ground. I'm confident we'll get there. Have no issues at all with the bill moving forward, and looking forward to being able to come on in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, questions from the committee? Dr. Choi?
Thank you. I have some analysis here. It says this service is already existing. Is lack of communication or misunderstanding due to the lack of proper interpreters and the language providers has been deemed discriminatory by both the state and the federal laws. And this, there is already a deaf access program within the Department of Social Services and then available for local county agencies to utilize. How do you answer to this? Why your bill is necessary if a service is already available?
Because it's not really available. And if you look at the counties across California, these services are not being provided. Imagine, which is something that we've been working on, that a social worker goes into a home with the potential of removing a child, and that family only speaks Spanish, only speaks Tagalog, only speaks Russian, only speaks Chinese. And the social worker then decides that because they can't understand, don't know what's going on, they may remove that child. Same circumstance here. We provide training, we provide cultural competency, we provide language provisions, but not for the deaf and hard of hearing. ASL is a language. The deaf and hard of hearing do, in fact, communicate, whether it's parents or children. And across the counties, these services don't always exist. The training's not always there. The protocols are not always there. What this bill does is ensure that in every single county, there is a deaf and hard of hearing coordinator to ensure that those services happen. And then at the state level, providing training, materials, recommendations to the counties to ensure that the capacity exists in every single county.
Thank you, Assemblyman. I'm not really familiar in this area. Are there different sign languages based upon the origin of the language by different culture, English, so Russian or Japanese?
There are. There tend to be different interpretations or different implementations of sign language. I don't know how acute the issue is with sign language with a Spanish-speaking family, Russian-speaking family, but I'm talking about spoken language. We're familiar with that. We go solve that. But when a family's using ASL, American Sign Language, and a social worker comes, a sheriff's deputy comes, there's an interaction with the county social services, and nobody's trained in American Sign Language, they're not sensitive to the issues of a family that is using American Sign Language or communicating because one or more of the family members is deaf. What we don't want is for them to come to a conclusion that just merely because they're communicating in a different format, that there is a problem there.
So your bill will create a manager, deaf services manager, and then also every county position will have a deaf and hard of hearing coordinator.
Yes.
And these two managers and coordinators will solve all the problems that you are talking about.
It will go a long way to address the problems, yes, and increase the amount of knowledge and capacity within each county to address the deaf and hard of hearing families that they have.
So this is not going to be the redundant service.
No.
Okay, I will hear from the opposition side maybe. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I have a motion by Assemblymember Reyes, and I'll go ahead and second that motion.
Thank you.
Can you call the roll, please? I'm sorry. Do you want to close?
I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Rubio? Aye. Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Okay, I'll go with that. Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Rambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Thurmond? It's got 3 votes and need 1 more.
That bill is on call, and it's due pass to appropriations.
Indeed. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is Assemblymember Quirk here? No? Okay. Assemblymember Kalra.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Kalra.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Assembly Bill 2455 allows the California Department of Social Services to provide, upon request from a labor organization, a record of all the names and phone numbers of newly registered or re-registering home care aides. The bill would prohibit a labor organization from sharing or using this information for any purpose other than employee training, organizing, representation, and assistance. There are approximately 145,000 private home care aides in California. These personal care providers are primarily employed by large companies that deploy home care aides to the elderly, convalescents, or persons with disabilities who need assistance with activities or daily living such as housekeeping, meal preparation, and other personal care services. The workforce is composed of primarily women and people of color, and the work is often isolated and at times unsafe. In 2013, the Home Care Services Consumer Protection Act required DSS to license private companies that provide private pay home care services to California's elderly and disabled population, as well as certified individual home care aides were employed by these companies. DSS is responsible for compiling and maintaining a registry of home care agencies and aides on its internet website. Currently, someone visiting the Home Care Aid Registry is only able to verify whether or not a home care aid is registered once a full name and the provider's personnel identification number are entered. This assumes the consumer has obtained this information through the company, which is not always the case. Without a real way for labor organizations to outreach to home care aides to offer training and representation, the long-term care workforce could be stunted at a time when there is a growing population of seniors and people with disabilities in California. Last year, I authored AB 1513, which was vetoed by the governor because of the concern that home care aides entering the system were not aware that their information would eventually be disclosed to labor organizations. I've addressed those concerns by making AB 2455 a proactive, prospective measure that notifies newly registered or re-registering home care aides that the registry is available to labor organizations. I'm happy to accept the committee's amendments that add to the facts and findings section and replicate agreed upon language from last year's AB 1513 regarding the written notice to home care aides about the new disclosure. AB 2455 grants home care aides the opportunity to benefit from training and organizing that may not be readily available to them. These services can help home care aides advance in their careers, increase the level of care they provide, and are an invaluable opportunity that the state should take advantage of as our aging population continues to increase. With me to provide supporting testimony are Tiffany Witten from SEIU California and Danielle Davis, a private home care worker.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Chair and members, Tiffany Whiten with the Service Employees International Union, representing over 375,000 long-term care workers. We'd like to thank the author for bringing the bill forward and for your committee for working with us on the amendments that were laid out into the analysis. I just wanted to echo and note really quickly the changes that were made from last year's version that you guys saw to this year's version. It only affects those individuals that are newly registered or when they go to renew their registration every 2 years. So we listened to the veto message and made sure that we made the proper changes to it. And so with me today, I have Danielle, one of our members that can speak from the caregiver's perspective. Thank you.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Danielle Davis from San Francisco, California, and I have been a private agency home care provider for over 13 years with the Institute of Aging. I love my job every day. I have great opportunities to give love, compassion, and services that help people live a more independent life because I help those who cannot fully help themselves. Though my work can be challenging sometimes, I just focus on providing the best care that I can and always remember that the patients appreciate my work. They are more like family to me than just patients. I am also able to focus on the care I give to clients because of the support I have from my union. Since I began my career with the Institute on Aging, I have had the support I need from my union, but not all caregivers are as lucky as me. But we all are one and we all do the same job. As the shop steward, I take what I do and the care I provide very seriously. I adhere to my own strict standards to keep my clients and myself safe. Standards that I have been able to learn and teach others because I am connected with my coworkers and have an employee representative that I can trust. I support Assembly Bill 2455 because the idea of allowing specific labor organizations to reach out to caregivers like me to help them become a better caregiver with resources that may not be provided otherwise, that may not be otherwise known to them, should have been placed in years ago. On behalf of private agency home aides and the people we care for, we support Assembly Bill 2455 and respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Shibangi Demokos with UDW AFSCME Local 3930 in very strong support.
Any witnesses in opposition?
Do you guys want to slide over one seat just in case they still stay out there?
Hello, my name is April Carney. I'm with Apex Care and Home Care Services. I am strong opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. Braden Obrowski on behalf of the California Association of Health Services at Home. We are opposed to the bill. First of all, we appreciate the amendments that were proposed. Doesn't change, unfortunately, it doesn't change our position on the bill. First of all, I want to start by saying that CASA is not against unions. We have nothing against unions. We have nothing against home care workers joining a union. What we do object to, though, is the state doing what the unions haven't been able to do. The unions have been trying to organize home care workers for years. They haven't been able to do it, and this bill is trying to have the state do it for them. Unions are saying that this is the only way to get information out to home care workers. That isn't the case. You can do newspaper ads, you can do magazine ads, you can do internet. You can go onto the registry and get the names and addresses by county of home care organizations and visit them. There are lots of ways to reach out to home care workers without getting personal names, personal phone numbers, and cell phone numbers of these aides. This bill is not about IHSS workers. This bill is not about independent contractors working for DRAs. This bill is about registered home care aides working for registered home care aid companies. Home care organizations had to be registered starting 2 years ago. They're just going through their renewal process now. CASA actually supported licensure. We actually proposed a licensure bill ourselves, worked with various entities because we wanted to make sure that all of our home care organizations and our home care aides were working off the same criteria. We demanded as part of licensure that training be put into licensure requirements. Home care aides have to meet minimum standards of training every year. That training must be detailed by the type of training, what was covered in the training, the name of the course, and the instructor that was given the course. Every 2 years, the department comes out and reviews home care organizations. They look at that training for every single aide that they come out and see. If that training is not there, the home care organizations face a fine of up to $900 per day per violation. That's no small amount of money. That could quickly put a home care organization out of business if they're not in compliance. We take training very seriously, and to say that home care aides are not giving training and career opportunities is simply false. Additionally, what is this bill doing? It's providing for one group of people, pro-union folks, to get access to information to provide speech, where another group, for example, an anti-union organization, does not give that same information to promote their own speech. If this information is available to a public information request, it should be made available to both sides, not just one side. With that, we ask for your no vote.
Madam Chair, members, Carl London here on behalf of the Home Care Association of America. We also represent a number of private businesses that provide home care services throughout the state of California. We agree with the prior testimony that the premises of this bill are just false. This bill is pure and simple about nothing more than organizing and handing over to organized labor the tools to have all of the names and phone numbers of the people that are on the registry and registered in California to give their private contact information to them, away to them, pure and simple. That's the number one reason for the bill. Training, absolutely false. As Braden indicated, the training that our organizations provide is required both under law, it's done for quality purposes, and it's also done for liability reasons. There's no way an organization would send a staff person out without adequate training for fear of liability and problems that would arise from that. Last year, also want to point out that we had victims, domestic violence victims who testified in opposition to this bill. They were very afraid of having their information circulating anywhere. They did not want to see it circulating anywhere. We understand that the opt-out was given as a choice, but at a minimum, the women that testified were asking for an opt-in. This bill doesn't do that. That said, that wouldn't satisfy our organization. We see no compelling reason to do this. The other thing, the bill provides absolutely no limitations whatsoever on the types of calls, the numbers of contacts that can be made to persons once their information is given away. They could be repeatedly harassed, contacted over and over again. There's nothing in the bill that restricts that in any way. Finally, looking at other examples, it's absolutely true that in other states there have been efforts to try to unorganize workers. When those types of legislative efforts have been introduced, guess who opposes those? Labor unions. They do not want to see equal information provided to the people that they work with. The last thing I'd say on this is compare this to any other person registered with the state of California. For example, your physician, your dentist, any person who has a license in the state of California. No person is able to contact that licensing board and ask for your doctor's home phone number and contact information. If they chose to give it to you, that's fine, you could get it, but there is no other state precedent for this where we're giving away information to a single population of people just for the purpose of organizing, and that's what this bill is all about. We absolutely oppose this. We'd urge a no vote on this bill, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Randy Pollock on behalf of Homestead in opposition.
Alan Fisher in strong opposition, owner of Indicare in home care.
Karen Kaufman, owner of Indicare in strong opposition.
Valerie Nero for the California Chamber of Commerce in opposition.
Madam Chair, Kevin Pedrati representing Maxim Healthcare Services in opposition. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. With that,
Actually, there's.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm right here. Nicole Bozog in opposition.
Thank you.
April Carney, Community Relations Manager with Apex Care in Home Care, in strong opposition.
Thank you.
Barry Giardini, California Disability Services Association, in opposition.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may just add one more. We have a second client. I'm not going to testify, just identify them, but the Alliance supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities is also opposed to this legislation.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll bring it up to the committee for questions. Dr. Choi.
I hear very clearly that this is an attempt to organize in-home care service providers. It may be good for the unions to organize for whatever claims you are making, such as training, etc. But already I hear that the training is provided and required. And what other benefits the home care recipients will receive out of this bill?
Well, this is being done for the benefit of the worker. There's no doubt about it. And yes, these facilities have to, or these companies have to do a minimum of 5 hours a year of training is what's required. And although that's a bare minimum requirement, the reality is that in working with a labor organization that specializes in these kinds of services, not only do the workers have the opportunity to get even more and more training and the best quality training they can possibly get, the training won't be limited strictly to issues of the job and limiting the liability, but it would also include rights and responsibilities as a worker, as well as the rights and responsibilities of the employer, create a support network with the workers' well-being in mind. And the reality is that for many of the companies or those that have concerns, if they're treating their workers well, paying them well, if they're making sure they're properly trained, there's not an issue. Really, this is targeting those companies or those individual workers who are a victim of companies that are employing wage theft or is not providing safe environments. Where there's, this is a job that has a lot of isolation. And so the idea behind this is really to provide the opportunity for workers to be able to not only have access to training, but to be represented. I think sometimes we presume that it's an easy task for labor or any other organization just to go in and organize. The reality is that these are workers that it's shown not only is there rampant wage theft in the industry, but there are also a number of companies that don't do adequate training, even if they do the 5 hours a minimum. And so this bill is really important in order to ensure and I also want to keep in mind, I want to preface this by two things. One is the original bill was broader than just labor organizations that had or any organizations that did training. Ledge Council advised that we narrow it. And we took suggestions both from Ledge Council as well as other stakeholders and other assembly members and other colleagues of mine to narrow it. The governor vetoed it. He vetoed it because it was retroactive and not prospective. And so we've changed the bill to make it prospective. It passed through the Assembly and the Senate last year before those changes, and I'm hoping that these changes will allow the governor to look kindly upon it.
Another area that I am really concerned about this is once we provide such an easy opportunity for the caregivers to unionize, mostly the labor unions are there for their welfare and proper treatment from the employers, et cetera, When during the negotiation for whatever contract employment, contract or wage increase, whatever, whenever at such a time no agreement has reached, then one of the tools that the labor unions use, taking an action, typically strike. Then if they use that type of extreme measure when they don't come to an agreement, what happens that the people who 100% rely upon caregivers and that they are out there strike, will these people be taken care of?
Well, first of all, there are plenty of home care aides, as was alluded to by some folks in the opposition, that are unionized, and there are plenty of companies that do have union labor, and so there's no one that cares more about the ones that they care for than the actual workers. But I will tell you this, that if the workers aren't cared for, we're not benefiting those individuals anyway. If the workers are being overworked, if they're not properly trained, if there's wage theft involved, then we're not taking care of that worker who's actually taking care of the person that's in need. So, this is certainly the issue of collective bargaining empowers individuals that otherwise are not empowered, that don't have the power against a company. And so absolutely the collective bargaining is used to not just empower the worker, but to make sure that they're in the best position to take care of our loved ones when they're in need.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? I have had several conversations with both the sponsor and the author, and I still have some concerns over what we're doing here. And I specifically asked about the domestic violence issue. I shared comments about abusers calling their spouses, or when spouses are receiving phone calls, the abusers automatically rage out. And I gave an example my own sister who was a victim of domestic violence. She received a phone call at 10 p.m. And it was a business call, and her abuser was very upset with her because she was receiving phone calls from strange people. And that was a big issue for me when we had the discussion in my office about what my concerns are. I hope that we can address that issue. If you have anything now, can you please?
Well, certainly. That's why we've limited the use of of just the name and the phone number that they provide to the registry as the only means of contact, and the only purpose of contact is for the purposes that are legitimate purposes for the labor organization, which would be training, organizing, representation. Anyone that's going to violate the law and create and engage in criminal conduct to violate the use of that information should be prosecuted and charged. Anyone that's a member of a union organization that uses that information improperly should be let go and prosecuted and charged. And so the reality is that it's very narrow in terms of who gets access to the name and phone number as opposed to public databases. It's not a public database, and it's been narrowly crafted for that reason. And the reality is that, in my estimation, and at least from the information that we get in terms, being chair of aging and long-term care, the information we get in terms of the plight of home care aides and home care workers, there are far more of them that are being abused, harassed, and sexually assaulted that don't feel they have a recourse that would at least have the opportunity to have better representation if they were part of a union. And so the issues that you raise are absolutely valid and legitimate, and that's partly why we've narrowed it as much as we have. But I also think that the issues of harassment and abuse that are currently occurring go unchecked, particularly if you have workers working in isolations that don't feel they're part of a support network that a labor organization can provide them.
Thank you. And then the other comment that it was very important for us to understand that you will inform the employees of their opt-out provisions, because that's, again, another concern is that they're not going to be given the proper information. If we're talking about allowing them to make their own decisions, then that is also very important.
I agree, and particularly someone that may be in a sensitive situation, they may be in an abusive situation, and when they weigh it, say, you know what, it would be great to be able to connect with the labor organizations. It would be great to be able to get training, but when I weigh the two, I'm not willing to risk giving my number to them. That's their choice, and we would never take that away.
Thank you. And then lastly, I do have a due passes amended to Assembly Appropriations, and I heard you say that you are accepting the amendments, but I would still, if there's any way that you can sit down with the opposition and try to figure this out before appropriations, or, even before if it makes it to the floor. Again, I have some concerns, again, specifically about abuse of the information. So if you can assure me that, then I will go ahead and
Madam Chair, our door will always remain open. Obviously, on issues like this, there may be just a principal difference. If there's just an interest in not having the labor organizations have access to be able to inform and train and organize these workers, that could just be a principal difference. But I will commit to doing whatever we can to, and I think there's already been a lot of movement made from where this bill was last year when there was name, phone number, email, all that, home address. Those were the privacy concern issues that we dealt very closely and with great concern of the critique from opposition. So just to make it clear, we've done a lot in terms of the critique from the opposition. Whether we're going to completely satisfy them, I can't assure that, but I can assure you we'll do whatever we can to make, as long as we keep the principles of the bill in place.
Thank you. With that, let's see. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And would you like to close?
Thank you. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio? Aye. Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
No.
Dr. Choi, no. Arambula? Mainstein? Reyes? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurmond? Aye. Thurmond, aye. Bill's got 3-1. Needs one more.
Thank you. The bill is on call. Thank you. Yes, and while we have a quorum, can we go ahead and do the consent calendar, please?
You want me to go ahead and read them off?
Yes, please.
Item number 1, AB 1930 by Assemblymember Mark Stone, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 8, AB 2331 by Assemblymember Weber, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 13, item number 12, AB 2702 by Assemblymember McCarty, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 13, AB 2821, Assemblymember Mace, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 14, AB 2905, Assemblymember Acosta, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 15, AB 2933, Assemblymember Medina, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Item number 21, AB 3098, Assemblymember Friedman, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Rubio? Oh, did we
need a
get a
motion.
motion?
Thank you. Okay.
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone? Stone, aye. Thurman? Thurman, aye. Bill, consent's out.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Weber.
Good afternoon. We want to thank you for 2331 going on consent. That brings us to AB 2152, Can't Work If You're Too Hungry bill. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. AB 2152 is a bill to help prevent hunger among out-of-work Californians. A current federal rule establishes that out-of-work recipients of CalFresh are limited to 3 months of aid in any 36-month period. California has a waiver to this rule, but it expires August of this year. A request for a continued waiver from some counties with higher unemployment rates have been submitted and is currently being considered by the White House. But a recent executive order and the newly released 2018 Farm Bill suggest that the future of these area waivers during times of high unemployment are unclear. The truth of the matter is that the work rates among CalFresh recipients are high, with nearly 80% of adults able to work, earning income through employment. But CalFresh is there to also help people who, when they are out of work or between jobs. Cutting people off from aid during this time makes it harder for them to find a job. What AB 2152 does, it will require the California Department of Social Services to establish a hunger threshold that will identify when a person is too hungry to be employable. The bill directs the department to convene a work group of physicians and workforce development specialists who are expert in adult hunger to establish a threshold and design a screening to be used by county social workers. Once in place, the person who is screened as being unfit for work due to hunger will be temporarily exempt from the 3-month time limit. Simply put, AB 2152 will help prevent out-of-work Californians from going hungry, and by doing so, increasing the likelihood that they will be able to get back to work. AB 2152 is sponsored by the Western Center on Law and Poverty. Here today with me to testify is Jessica Bartlow from the Western Center on Law and Poverty. Jessica.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Jessica Bartlow with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. I've spent about 20 years as an anti-hunger advocate in advocating for the CalFresh program. But that's not the only thing that makes me an expert on hunger and anti-hunger programs. I also have been hungry. And I can tell you, personally, that hunger doesn't help you be better at anything. The first time I experienced chronic hunger, I lost weight, my clothes didn't fit. I went from being the kid that was picked second, because I was a girl, so never first, to the kid that wasn't picked for the sports. It was my 4th grade year, and my dad couldn't find work. He was a construction worker, and it was a snowy winter in Lake Tahoe. That year, because I was in 4th grade, I was tested for GATE, and I was placed in the GATE class. And then I was removed from the GATE class because I couldn't keep up. I couldn't stay awake in class. These are the experiences of people, children, adults, people who are veterans, people who are older, who will experience hunger as a result of the proposed cuts in DC, who are experiencing hunger today because only about 70% of people eligible are participating. And these are the people who will hopefully benefit from their parents or they themselves having a screening that helps identify when they're having the experience of chronic hunger so that they can have a temporary relief from the mandatory work requirements in the program. When the bill was introduced, we didn't know that the White House was going to be introducing an executive order making the work requirements harder. And we didn't know that the House Agriculture Committee would be passing a farm bill on a partisan basis, which not only shortens the time limit from 3 months to 1 month for out-of-work Americans, but also applies it to families with children. So we're so grateful for this timely legislation, and we urge your vote, your aye vote for the bill from Western Center and from me personally. On behalf of hungry Americans, appreciate your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California Chapter, in strong support.
Angela Williams, California Black Health Network, in support.
Lori Furstenfeld from the Child Care Law Center, in support.
Kevin Asner, Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organization, strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay, seeing none. And anyone from the committee? Thank you.
I have a question to the author. I support your bill in concept, but how would you ensure that the able-bodied will try to look for a job and intentionally try to avoid taking unemployment when you make it easier while the federal government is trying to tighten up the resources that's available, made available? Because some people is truly hungry people should be helped, but as free money is available and continuously, then it'll be disincentivize those who don't want to work and seek for employment.
Okay. Did you want to respond? You want me to respond? It doesn't really matter.
Sure. I'm sorry. It makes me a little emotional to hear the question, because I think that there is a great assumption that low-income people will take advantage of programs if they're there. And the truth of the matter is that nobody grows up thinking, hey, I want to be on food stamps. There are people there are some people who cheat the system. We have one of the best anti-fraud programs in SNAP. It has one of the lowest error rates than any government program in the country. And even if there are a handful of people that will cheat, it doesn't make sense to punish everybody else because they do. It's cruel to let somebody go without food, and that we do that in a state as wealthy and as great as we are makes no sense. This bill will require people to certify that they have experienced hunger at the rate that would qualify them for the exemption. So a self-certification would be required likely, though the implementation would be up to the Department of Social Services. And I personally have great faith in the department and the county administrators for the work that they do to keep the program working the way it should, because people who are low income and who rely on the program want to make sure people don't cheat too. There's nobody who hates a welfare cheat more than a welfare recipient, and that is the truth. So we would trust that the county and the state administrators would implement the law as they're required to in ways that would prevent fraud and abuse.
Okay, so follow-up question. Will the Department of Social Services, if I ask for free food and then you see me, I'm able-bodied and should be able to work, and then can you offer me a job? If I refuse it, will I be disqualified?
There are there are current regulations that would require you to look for work and register for work. This wouldn't, nothing about this bill would relieve people of their requirement to register for work. And there are other policies in the food stamp program that would say, for example, if you are offered a job and you refuse it, that's a different part of the law, and you would be denied benefits for a period of 3 months. If you have a job and you quit the job voluntarily, you're also disqualified for a period of 3 months. Or if you apply for benefits after having voluntarily quit a job, you're ineligible. This bill wouldn't change any part of that. You're also not allowed to reduce your hours below 20 hours a week under current law, or else you would become ineligible for the program, either as an applicant or a recipient, and that's also current law. And that applies to families with children or families without children. So in your example, if you turn down a job, or if you quit a job, or if you reduce your hours below a certain threshold, you would be denied aid, and nothing about this bill would prevent that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just for clarification, you are accepting the amendment?
We are accepting the amendments, yes.
Thank you. With that, would you like to close?
Sure. I appreciate the conversation. And as pointed out, you know, it's cruel to be in a state as wealthy as California and have people who are hungry. So hungry that they can't function, that they can't think. We see that in our schools every day with the children who are homeless and who are hungry. And we're in the wealthiest state in the world. I never want to ever deny helping someone because someone else who doesn't need help might benefit from it. You know, the Bible always tells us the sun shines on the just and the unjust at the same time. And there's always consequences of everything for those who decide to cheat. But we have gone through lots of efforts in the state of California to avoid those who commit fraud or who cheat. And you still have some who do. We have folks who cheat on their taxes who are not even government recipients at all, but simply do that because that's who they are. And so I would hope that we would focus on what the real issue is at hand, is that we have a lot of folks who are hungry. Sometimes as a government agency, we try to put a lot of stipulations on things and make it so complicated that we almost benefit no one. And I've told some students recently, because of all the hunger bills we've done on campuses, that I was kind of glad that the legislature did not take up the issue of regulating their food banks and their pantries and those kinds of things. Because if so, probably no one would ever get food. But these students have the kind of heart that nobody wants to really ask for food. No one wants to be an assistance. They all help out. And when someone says, I'm hungry, they kind of believe them. We're going to develop a different system, though, that will have a metrics in which they can look at the issue of hunger in a person's life and make sure that that doesn't become an impediment to it. But I think as a state as great as this nation, if you pass by someone who's hungry and you don't feel the sense of pain yourself, then something is really wrong with you. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for AB 2152.
Dr. Weber, and I just want to clarify, I think I heard it a couple times that in a state as wealthy as we are, that it's cruel. It's just cruel no matter what state we're in. And I just want to make that point because it's cruel just for kids to be hungry. I was a teacher for 16 years and had to teach kids that didn't have food. We're expecting them to learn to read the 3 R's, read, write, and arithmetic, right? And they don't have proper meals. And so I just wanted to make sure that it's not just cruel in a state like ours. It's just cruel, period.
Yes.
And so with that, I do have a recommendation to do pass as amended to appropriations. If you can call the roll, please.
Rubio? Aye. Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. The bill is out, 4-0.
Thank you. I just want to clarify the motion on the consent calendar for AB 2933 Medina was read incorrectly. It should have been due pass to appropriations, not due pass as amended. Thank you. Is Assemblymember Frazier here? No? Kay Manshine? Friedman? Gibson is here. I know I was getting to you, Mr. Gibson. Please come on up.
Item 11.
It's item 11, AB 2605.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. I'd like to start by saying I accept the amendments that's offered by this committee. which are technical in nature, and I want to thank the chair and the staff for working so closely with us to help improve this bill and make it better. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 2605, which will ensure that group homes and foster care facilities have protocols that strict calls to law enforcement on foster youth as a last resort. Many group care facilities continue to rely on law enforcement as a primary behavior management response to minor incidents. And I want to underscore minor incidents. Foster youth have been arrested for food fights with cake icing and charged with inciting a riot. And in other instances, children who poke at a caregiver with a candy cane was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. These children are being criminalized for behavior that can be expected from any child that's growing up. And I want to underscore, we would not call the police on our biological child for disagreement, for a poking with a candy cane, or a food fight with a cake, or not going to sleep, or not eating our food. So why should we call the police to handle a foster youth that you accept into your home, that you pledge to provide the guidance and the leadership to that child so that child can grow up to be a respected citizen? According to the Department of Social Services, in 2016, these calls resulted in 435 youth being cited, 527 youth being detained or arrested, and another 319 being booked into juvenile hall. These facilities are licensed and compensated to manage the behavior that law enforcement is being inappropriately relied upon and to handle. Assembly Bill 2605 would require foster care facilities to develop a protocol that specifies when it would be appropriate to call law enforcement. These protocols must specify that law enforcement will only be contacted as a last resort with a approval of a supervisors. These mirrors policies of other facilities that are already being implemented, and a job well done with those to those particular facilities. This bill also requires staff to undergo an annual training on protocols. The protocols must also address contacting law enforcement in case of emergency situation if there is an immediate risk to anyone in the facility. Foster youth have faced significant trauma and their lifetime and deserve better than being sent to juvenile hall as a way of time out. Here with me to provide supporting testimonies are representatives from the Youth Law Center as well as the father and family of the San Joaquin.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Is it on?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Maria Remieux. I'm Senior Staff Attorney at the Youth Law Center. We're pleased to co-sponsor AB 2605 with Fathers and Families of San Joaquin, Policy Link, and Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice to reduce the reliance on law enforcement in foster care facilities. AB 2605 builds on prior legislative efforts. In 2014, AB 388 required group facilities to report their contacts with law enforcement, required that those reports be annually available online. It required increased oversight by the California Department of Social Services. But one of the things that it didn't do was to provide specific guidance to facilities or to the oversight agency on how to reduce those calls. AB 2605 builds on what we've learned from some of the data that's been reported. Majority of the calls that are made by law enforcement are for non-aggressive, non-assaultive behavior. And one of the things that AB 2605 does in establishing standards for facilities and for CDSS in overseeing these facilities is to provide core elements that facilities should have in their policies about when to call the police. We think that this is a needed improvement that will have a significant impact on the reduction of law enforcement in foster care facilities, and will eliminate some of the eliminate the trivial use of law enforcement to manage basic behavior that any child or adolescent may engage in. I'm going to hand this over to Shay.
Thank you. Greetings, Chairman and committee members. My name is Keontae Holloman. I was the vulnerable youth that was arrested by law enforcement at age 13 for disturbing the peace. I was not only feeling lost and confused, I felt like I was being punished. The shelter chose to send me to juvenile hall instead of counseling, which I greatly needed to deal with my trauma. I no longer qualify for foster homes, so that took away the chance for me to be able to be placed with a normal family, which was punishment enough. At that time, I felt like I needed to be told things were going to be okay. My behavior could have been cured with just something as a simple hug. And for me, this would have been great. Thank you.
Next witness. All right. Anyone else in support?
Hi, Anna Johnson with the National Center for Youth Law and Strong Support.
Lizzie Beacon with the ACLU of California in support.
Evelyn Abuhasan, Disability Rights California in support.
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter in support.
Kelly Brooks on behalf of the County Welfare Directors Association here in support.
Sabina Crossetti with All of Us or None in strong support.
Lori Furstenfeld in strong support as a former social worker who worked in a level 14 group home who had to call the police on little kids for minor incidents. I'm in strong support. Thank you.
Stephanie Ivler, California Alliance of Child and Family Services in support. I'd like to go on record, however, in saying that our 90 nationally accredited
I'm sorry,
members.
we're just taking support. We're not able to take more testimony at this
Thank
point.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for engaging us.
Kiana Patterson with Hop Skip Drive in support.
Brenda Dabney with the Children's Law Center of California in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Seeing none? Oh.
Not official opposition anymore. Jonathan Feldman, California Police Chiefs Association. We were opposed to the original version of the bill, which statutorily restricted these homes from calling law enforcement, but we think that the amendments to move it to more policy and internal controls within the facilities is much more appropriate. We thank the author and his staff and the sponsors for working with us on those amendments, and with that, we are neutral.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, bring it back to the committee, but not much here from that. Yeah, I will. So there's not even somebody here to make a motion. We'll have to take up motions and all that once we get enough folks back. So please bear with us. Mr. Gibson, you may close.
Sure. Thank you very much. I want to thank our sponsors and also the witness for doing an impeccable job. This bill, I certainly believe, represents hope. It represents a new chapter that we can make sure that those who the most vulnerable, who are foster youth, can have an opportunity to get that hug. That a hug will go a long way in terms of diffusing a lot of situations, especially when you're talking about impressionable children who already has faced a tremendous amount of trauma just by being in the foster care system itself. And so my heart goes out to foster youth in our community, but our job is to do everything that we can to make it better. And I believe this is a step in the right direction, and it's certainly respectfully ask for an aye vote at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you.
We will certainly take it up then. All right, Mr. Quirk, item number 3, AB 2111.
Somebody left the phone.
So, Assemblymember Stone, I bet you know all about this bill. And I don't have much voice, so just let me say that I'm going to accept the committee's amendments and to strengthen the bill by requiring counties to renew CalWORK's indigent exceptions, and then I will pass this on to my witnesses.
All right, thank you. First witness.
Hi, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Anisa Basoko Villarreal. I am the Policy Director at Alameda County Social Services Agency. Alameda County is honored to be working closely with Assemblymember Quirk and the Western Center on Law and Poverty to co-sponsor Assembly Bill 2111. Currently, in the state of California, a county can make a determination that a sponsored non-citizen would go hungry and homeless without aid, and determine him or her to be indigent. For your reference, CalFresh and CalWORK's indigence determinations are only valid for 12-month periods. In the CalFresh program, these determinations are renewable annually without restrictions. However, in CalWORK's, there is no provision for renewal, and an indigence exception may only be granted once in a sponsored non-citizen's lifetime. Removing unnecessary barriers to support indigent immigrants is critical, especially now during a time of federal uncertainty. For Alameda County, this would mean assisting less than 40 individuals a year to receive this benefit. While small in number, it would help our community tremendously. With your indulgence, I'd like to read into the record testimony from an Alameda County client who was hesitant to come forward out of fear of the government, but wanted to share his story. My name is Mr. Prescott. I arrived to the United States from Tonga with my wife and child as sponsored non-citizens in 2012. I was gainfully employed until one tragic morning in 2015 when getting ready for work, I suffered a stroke. Having limited resources and no contact with my sponsor, I applied for CalWORKs. The aid really helped me when we had no other income, but the cash was cut off after 1 year and we suffered. We could no longer pay our rent or our bills. I had to find another source of income, even though I was still recuperating from my stroke. Finding employment was a challenge as my physical abilities were limited, and it was heartbreaking to see my child and wife suffer. Today, I am lucky to have a job, but if I lose my job, I am only one paycheck away from losing my home. Laws like AB 2111 will help us provide the basic necessities for our families. Please, help pass this bill so that our children can have the opportunity to succeed in this country. In closing, no human should have to face the possibility of going homeless or hungry, including immigrants. Please help protect the Prescotts of our state. Thank you for your time and support in advance.
Thank you. And Mr. Quirk, the committee was not asking for amendments. I know you've been taking amendments, so there's not amendments here. The recommendation is to pass to appropriations, just to clarify.
All right, well, at some point I was asked, and maybe they've been taken already, to make a may to a shall, and I'm changing the may to a shall, whether it's here or appropriations, or I've taken it already. Absolutely.
Yeah, those amendments evidently have already been crossed. So
Okay,
yeah,
good.
So
It's already in the bill. Good.
Yeah. All right. So next witness. There's no opposition to this, so if you could be brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Jessica Barthel with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. We're proud to co-sponsor this bill. I just want to point out that the option to make these consecutive 12 months has been available since the Balanced Budget Act of 1997, and further clarification was provided under the Bush administration in 2003, which provided that we could, at the state's option, make this a consecutive and continuous 12 months. And as advocates, we've been asking the state and counties to do this for some time. We really appreciate the legislation. Think it's greatly needed, and proud to request your aye vote.
Thank you.
Kevin Asnick, Coalition California Welfare Rights Organizations. What this bill does is brings the process just like CalWORKs and CalWORKs program. Every 12 months you recertify. And under the current system, they cut you off, then you have to reapply, then you become homeless, then you can't find a place. It doesn't make sense. So just streamline the system and simplify it.
Thank you. And you're breaking the chair's rules about two witnesses, so everyone else will just take that you give your name and organization and that you support the bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Karen Lang on behalf of Mayor Mark Farrell, the City and County of San Francisco, and the fine folks working in our Human Services Department, all asking for your aye vote today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Brooks, here on behalf of the County Welfare Directors Association and on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors from Santa Clara County, here in support.
Thank you.
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter in support.
Thank you.
Lori Furstenfeld from the Child Care Law Center in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to an empty committee. We'll take a motion when we get folks back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Frazier, you have a couple items with us today?
Yes, sir.
AB 2171, item number 5.
Mr. Chair, if you wouldn't mind, I have some witnesses that are kind of sensitive to time. If we could change it to 3074 first.
Sure.
Please.
Fine by me. They've left me here on my own, so
you get to decide.
What can I say? So item 20, AB 3074.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and absent members. AB 3074 empowers individuals with developmental disabilities through an integrated competitive employment. Come on up here, kiddo. This bill will allow for on-the-job skills training opportunities through community-based vocational services. You heard this bill last year, and it's back because it's imperative we expand employment opportunities to individuals with developmental disabilities. I'm addressing the governor's veto message by working with the DDS through the budget. A long-term investment in employment for individuals with IDD brings in a return to California by allowing members of the community to become self-reliant and less dependent on public assistance. I hope you can join me in support of a community that is dear to my heart. With me today is Barry Giardini with California Disability Services and my good friend Audra Sysom to express their support and answer any questions you may have. Barry?
Thank you. First witness, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Barry Giardini from the California Disability Services Association. We're proud to sponsor AB 3074. As the Assembly member said, it's our second go-around at this. And I want to thank Assemblymember Frazier for bringing this bill, as well as being a champion for individuals with developmental disabilities. In California, we have an employment first policy that prioritizes opportunities for competitive integrated employment for individuals with developmental disabilities, regardless of the severity of their disabilities. But unfortunately, we still have unemployment rates approaching the 90% mark for this population. And what we see as the missing link is employment exploration and job discovery and some of the pre-vocational services that are required or that could facilitate that competitive integrated employment. And so AB 3074 really has two main goals and two ways to address that gap in pre-vocational services. The first is to address the community-based vocational development services that were originally chaptered in 2014 through SB 577. Unfortunately, that bill was never implemented because it required federal financial participation, and we were informed by DDS that it would need a standalone waiver with CMS in order to go into effect. What we've done here is remove the pilot language from the bill so that the community-based vocational development services could be wrapped into the existing HCBS waiver and therefore would not require any new waiver with CMS. The second aim is to work on folks who are in supported employment groups or work activity programs to provide an opportunity for them to transition into more competitive integrated employment if that's their choice. So they would be able to use tailored day services in conjunction with their existing services to facilitate those employment opportunities and outcomes. With me today is Audra Sysom, and I want to just give her the floor for the rest of the time to speak to her experience and why she would like to see your support on this bill. Thank you.
So I have a job, and it helps me interact with other disability people too. I love it. I wouldn't change anything about it. I just love the people, and that's it. Yeah. That's about it.
That sums it up, right?
Do we have any other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Chair Rubio and members. My name is Lisa Cooley. I'm a former governor's appointee at the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I strongly support Senator Frazier's bill. It will give more people like me who have a developmental disability the opportunity to work in competitive integrated employment with decent wages and benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. You just promoted it. Yeah, you promoted him to senator. Thank you.
I'll take it.
Evelyn Abujas, Disability Rights California, in support.
Thank you.
Sidney Jackson, Association of Regional Center Agencies, ARCA, is in support of this bill.
Thank you.
Teresa Anderson with the ARC and UCP California Collaboration and Support.
Thank you.
Janelle Lewis. I serve as a member on California State Council on Developmental Disabilities, and the State Council is in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is my other stalker.
Nicole Boslog, Futures Explored Alive, in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Which way are you going to go? Straight back? Okay.
Need a beeper.
I know, huh?
Right?
No, straight back. You're fine.
As soon as she moves,
Carl London on behalf of Alliance individuals, supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in support as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Parks with Futures Explored, support of employment and tailored day service, and definite support of this bill.
Thank you. Okay, any witnesses in opposition? Okay, right. Thank you. With that, I do need a motion.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. I bring it, bringing back up to the dais. Any questions from the committee members? Okay. Hearing none, I have a motion to, it's a due pass to appropriations. Would you like to close?
Just respectfully ask your aye vote for this wonderful population of people.
Thank you. With that, can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. The bill is out, 4-0.
Bill is out, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then we have your next item.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I want to begin by accepting the committee amendments and thank you for working with my staff on those. AB 2171 focuses on the individual and their goals. It ensures the Department of Education, the Department of Rehabilitation, and the Department of Developmental Services are coordinating effectively to serve individuals with developmental disabilities through the initial phases of the individualized planning process. With me to answer any questions and to speak in support of the bill are Dr. Olivia Rayner and Janelle Lewis, a parent. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for this opportunity to testify for AB 2171. Is this on? I'm Olivia Rayner. I direct the Tarjan Center at UCLA. We are a university center for excellence in developmental disabilities. Our center has been working in the area of transition to employment for decades, and we use the research that we conduct and our work to support the lives of people with developmental disabilities. I am also a member of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. The 15% employment rate of individuals with developmental disabilities is not acceptable. unacceptable. AB 2171 addresses fundamental problems people experience in achieving competitive integrated employment. Specifically, these problems include a transition cliff whereby students leave high school without a coordinated plan for their future that results in many transitioning from school to nothing, or worse yet, to the family's couch. A lack of essential communication across agencies in the planning and delivery of services, and a lack of accountability across agencies for successful achievement of employment. AB 2171 strengthens the California Blueprint for Employment's efforts by implementing specific evidence-based practices for youth and ensuring that the interagency agreement results in person-centered planning that supports the goals and pathways for the individual to achieve employment, data collection and sharing across departments to track integrated employment outcomes, self-advocacy by the individual with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their parents by giving them access to needed information to achieve the necessary coordination across agencies. And finally, it assures that stakeholders who are most impacted by this agreement have a voice in its implementation. The State Council on Developmental Disabilities supports AB 2171 as it ensures that an individual will experience one system with one goal, competitive integrated employment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Janelle Lewis, a member of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities and the parent of a young adult with a developmental disability. My youngest son, Ben, is a 21-year-old who wants to work. Ben has a diagnosis of autism. He is one of the most interesting, hardworking, compassionate, talented people that I have ever known. He wants what everyone wants, to be productive and contributing and valued, and to be integrated into his community through his job. For individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who want to be employed, such as my son Ben, there must be a coordinated, seamless delivery of services and supports so they can access competitive integrated employment as outlined in the blueprint, and so that they do not become part of the frightening statistics that show their likelihood to fall off that transition cliff, to become isolated couch dwellers or worse, or to become tangled in a web of services that is impossible to navigate. My personal experiences trying to access services for my son within this very complicated system include having to go through an extremely time-consuming, stressful, unnecessary due process hearing with my son's services and welfare at great risk to straighten out a situation resulting from communication glitches between agencies. I was told after many months of trying to straighten out this agency communication problem and after the resulting hearing that this should never have happened. No parent or consumer should have to go through that nightmare just to straighten out an agency communication problem. I can tell you that when there is a lot that can and will go wrong when 3 departments are involved with implementation of a single program. Assembly Bill 2171 will make a really, really good idea, competitive integrated employment, into a successful reality, with 3 agencies communicating effectively to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
I'm going to get attacked by the mic here. Evelyn Abu Hassan, Disability Rights California. In support, we've offered some technical amendments to the author's office and to the sponsors to strengthen the bill, and we look forward to working with them to address those pieces. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Teresa Anderson with the ARC and UCP California in support.
Thank you.
I support this bill.
Thank you.
Barry Giardini, California Disability Services Association, in support.
Thank you.
Nicole Boswell, again, support.
Thank you. Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay, I have a motion. I do need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Thurman, a second by Mr. Stone. With questions from the committee? Hearing none, would you like to close?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I just You know, all of our travels members, I know that you've run across parents with children that have had an intellectual or developmental disability, and the parents ask, what's going to happen to my child when I'm gone? This is a process that we can start giving assurance to parents that we, the legislature, cares what's going to happen to their children. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. With that, I do have a motion and a second. Do pass as amended to appropriations. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio? Aye. Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. Bill is out 4-0.
Bill is out 4-0. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Ms. Friedman? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. As this committee knows well, California's foster youth are among our most vulnerable populations. Over the past decade, we've taken steps to strengthen our support and extend services up to the age of 21 to help foster youth transition into adulthood. Recently, we've taken steps to help foster youth in crisis re-enter the system. AB 2340 addresses a small loophole and will allow foster youth who entered the system before the age of 16 and have been receiving adoption assistance, or KINGAP, support, regain extended foster care services if they've been the victim of human trafficking and their adoption or guardianship placement has fallen apart. To be clear, this is a small segment of our overall foster youth population, but for those that are eligible, these services can have a significant impact. With access to extended foster care benefits, we can give them the support and stability they desperately need. We'll continue to work with stakeholders and your staff as the bill moves forward to ensure the language is clear and provide the courts with the directions that they need. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Jim Gross on behalf of GRACE, a project of the Daughters of Charity. As the Assemblywoman mentioned, this is a very small population. It would have been addressed in previous legislation by Mr. Gibson, unfortunately because of the federal law not allowing the extended foster care for those who entered the system prior to 16 through KINGAP or adoption services. It was not addressed. Very few children or individuals will fall into this category, but it's nonetheless very important to address them. We ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Okay. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay. Hearing none, bring it back up to the committee. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Hearing none, I do have a motion and a second to pass to appropriations. Would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi? Aye. Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurmond? Aye. Thurmond, aye.
Thank you. The bill is out. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Mr. Manshine's not here. Mr. Thurmond? I don't see Mr. Holden or Mr. Mathis. Okay, I need a motion. Before we continue, Mr. Thurmond, I need a motion on item number 3, AB 2111 by Assemblymember Quirk.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Stone, second by Mr. Thurmond. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi? Aye. Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Bill is out 4-0.
The bill is out 4-0. Mr. Thurmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Before you to present two bills. The first, AB 3224, which has to do with eligibility functions provided in our state. I'm proud to present AB 3224, which protects Californians from any future privatization of eligibility determinations for our safety net programs, Medi-Cal, CalFresh, and CalWorks. The Trump administration has made it possible for a county to privatize its eligibility workforce with a waiver approval. Nothing prevents a county from asking for a waiver at any time and can be requested without the oversight of the legislature or an opportunity for the public to comment. The merit or civil service status of personnel who determine eligibility for safety net program benefits is an essential feature of safety net programs. The job protections that come with merit employee systems are the best way to ensure that whistleblowing is an option for workers when the program is not working as it should. When for-profit entities compete for contracts, the products they develop and the information collected from clients is deemed proprietary to the company, effectively undermining the government's role in monitoring compliance with civil rights and other program rules or goals. AB 3224 protects Californians who depend on safety net programs and the government's role of accountability. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for this measure. With me to testify is Jessica Bartholow from the Western Center on Law and Poverty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Currently in California, eligibility workers must be merit or civil service employees of the county. Under federal law, the Medicaid and SNAP eligibility workers need to be eligibility workers of the county. There have been some requests for waivers of certain pieces of the eligibility process to allow for privatization of those processes in SNAP. And finally, in the CalWORKS program, the current regulations requires the eligibility workers to be merit or civil service employees of the county. This bill, what it does, would codify the current practice here in California. It would make sure that we take our current practice in CalWORKS and codify it and put it in law, and it would make sure that any erosion of these practices at the federal level would be preempted here in the state of California. We believe that this is the best system for applicants and recipients in the program, and as you heard the author say, it helps support whistleblowing, which is really important to advocates to be able to identify when there are problems and ensure the integrity of the program as well. For these reasons, we're proud to sponsor and support this piece of legislation and ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Selena Pryor, SEIU, in support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Joshua Golka with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees in support.
Thank you.
Justin Garrett, the California State Association of Counties. We have a neutral position on this bill and really appreciate the conversations with the author's office and the sponsor. This bill is consistent with current practice and the vital role that county staff play in making these important eligibility determinations for the safety net programs. Our neutral position is taken just out of concerns of any sort of unintended consequences for codifying existing practice into state law that's not at risk of changing, and out of any concerns for potential expansion beyond eligibility determinations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Asdanian, very strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring it up to the committee. Any questions? Okay. I need a motion and a second. I'll second. Let's see. Would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. The motion is due pass to the assembly floor. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
No.
Dr. Choi, no. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Bill's got 3 votes, needs 1.
Thank you. The bill's on call.
Thank you.
And, oh, you have another one. Item 16, AB 2960.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Presenting AB 2960, this bill seeks to enhance early education opportunities and expanded learning for families. Let me start by saying that we'll be accepting the committee amendments, and thank you to the chair and your staff for their work in helping us to refine this bill. This bill would set up an online portal for early education and expanded learning. The portal would serve as a one-stop shop for families to access eligibility information, apply for programs, and communicate with caseworkers online. Additionally, this website would allow for families to be connected to providers in their community. The current system is very complicated to navigate, and it keeps families from taking advantage of beneficial programs. In many cases, there are dozens of publicly funded early education childhood programs in the state, each with their own qualifications and enrollment process. This bill calls for consolidation of those resources into one online portal for parents and caregivers to access. In addition, this portal would allow for providers to give input information and access professional resources in one location. I respectfully ask for your I vote. With me to provide additional emphasis is Monique Ramos from First 5 California and Rowena Cano from the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Monique Ramos on behalf of First 5 California in strong support of AB 2960. This is a crucial bill and a crucial first step in creating a vision for a data system to connect our childcare system. After surviving the devastating cuts from the recession, it's time to evolve to a stronger, connected, family-centered system with a statewide data system. AB 2960 establishes a stakeholder process to help inform the data system, and we envision this data system supporting agencies but truly being a resources for parents to finding the care that best suits their children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Rowena Camo with the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of AB 2960. The convening of a stakeholder group to develop the components of the online portal is critical to ensure that the connected information infrastructure makes it easier for parents to access the vast resources on child care and development services in California, and also supports our child care providers. The state made a small one-time investment in fiscal year 15-16 to develop a consumer education website to fulfill the child care and development block grant requirements. The California Child Care Resource and Referral Network has been leading this work in partnership with local resource and referral organizations and agencies. The consumer education site, mychildcareplan.org, is just one component of the larger ECE system to provide parents with another access point to get the critical information about child care and early education in California, and to connect them with state and local resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Kim Lewis representing Children Now in support.
Thank you.
Hi, Diana Dominguez with Child Care Resource Center and Child Care Alliance of Los Angeles in support.
Thank you. Okay. Witnesses in opposition.
Thank you. Deneen Micheletti-Colburn, representing the California Alternative Payment Program. And we're not actually in opposition. We're in a neutral position. We're hoping to flip that back to support. At one time, we were in support, and I think with conversations, we can get back there. The alternative payment programs are the only entity that actually do the case management. And our concerns surround we support the intent of the bill for the provider portal and providing information. Where our reservations arise is based on the central portal for income eligibility determination. History has shown us that when you do a system for all families, but you don't actually recognize the unique needs of the subsidy families, of which the APs are the only ones that have that unique understanding, then the families in the subsidy system are the ones that actually get hurt. They fall through the cracks. We had a centralized eligibility list before, and there were all good intentions to get it going. And what happened? The funding was lost, people didn't understand the system, and families fell through the cracks. So additionally, in San Diego County, they have grave concerns on this language because they have secured local funding to develop a portal and to develop a website for all families, but really heavily focused on subsidy families. So we see a lot of duplication with what they're doing, but there hasn't yet been a real assessment of what is currently out there. So again, we want to raise that we wholeheartedly support the provider portal and sharing of information. Our reservations are surrounding how the families that are income eligible, the subsidy families, come into the system. We already have a system that works beautifully with our county partners, and we would say let's build on it, but let's not replicate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back up to the committee. Any questions from the committee? Okay, hearing none, I do need a motion in a second. So moved. Second. Thank you. Okay, I have a motion in a second, and the recommendation is do pass as amended to the Assembly Appropriations. Can you call the roll, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would simply say that we recognize the incredible expertise that CAPS provides to families who avail themselves of subsidy. There are meetings taking place and set up to take place to ensure that everyone is included in this effort. I would simply say that from a general standpoint, as hard as it is for families to sometimes find resources, I don't think you can ever have a limit on the number of ways that you help a family get there. But I want to be right up front and say that this is a very important partner who does incredible work, and we think that we can find a way to get everyone involved in this effort to support our families. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rubio.
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi.
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula. Mainshine. Reyes. Reyes, aye. Stone. Stone, aye. Thurman.
Aye.
Thurman, aye. The bill is out 5-0.
The bill is out 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm lifting the call on item 11, AB 32, I'm sorry? Oh, AB 2605. Item 11. I need a motion and a second. Okay. Thank you. I have a motion and a second by Mr. Stone and Dr. Choi.
Rubio.
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi.
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula. Mainshine. Reyes. Reyes, aye. Stone. Stone, aye. Thurman. Thurman, aye. Bill is out 5-0.
Okay, I'll lifting the call on item 17, AB 3006. Stone, can you call the roll, please?
Arambula. Mainshine. Reyes. Reyes, aye. Bill is out 4-0.
Thank you. Bill is. Yeah, we have Colorado too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thurman. Whoops.
Okay, 5-0. Okay, the bill's out 5-0. Okay, I'm lifting the call on item number 10, AB 2455. Calra, can you call the roll, please?
Arambula. Mainshine. Reyes.
Aye.
Reyes, aye. Bill is out
4-0.
4-0.
Bill is out 4-0.
4-1.
I'm sorry, 4-1. Okay, and item 23, AB 3224. Thurman.
Arambula. Mainshine. Reyes. Reyes, aye. Bill is out 4-0.
Okay, the bill's out 4-0. 4-1. Thank you. Assemblymember Holden.
4-1, sorry.
That's item 19, AB 3039.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'd like to thank the committee for its hard work on this bill. We understand the length and complexity of the bill, but we do appreciate working with you, and we look forward to continuing to work with the committee as the bill moves forward. Assembly Bill 3039 is one of 3 bills in a restorative justice package to reduce barriers to economic opportunity for formerly incarcerated Californians. This bill specifically creates a fair chance for people with arrest or conviction records to access caregiving and other jobs governed by the Department of Social Services. AB 3039 would grant clearances and eliminate the exemption process for applicants who were convicted of a non-directly or non-adversely related crime within the preceding 5 years, applicants who were convicted of a crime older than 5 years at the time of the application, with the exception of violent felonies. Additionally, AB 3039 will require the Department of Social Services to begin collecting data from clearance and exemption applications, specifically demographics on age, ethnicity, gender, and convicted crimes from applications that are denied clearance and exemptions. Currently, this information is not collected from applications that are denied or granted clearance or exemptions, which is a great disservice to the facilities and legal centers that fight every day to end the unintentional racism in our employment system. This data will show the consistent oppression of marginalized communities who are over-policed and over-convicted, and will highlight the need for change in our current system. Furthermore, it has been shown through data and studies that only a very small percentage of people who did commit a crime a few years prior actually recidivate, providing that rehabilitation works and people can change. For this reason, this bill has been endorsed by the California Legislative Black Caucus, as it is Black and Latina women who suffer the consequences of a broken system. As this bill moves through the legislative process, I'm personally committing to work with the department, the committee, and the opposition to strike a balance between restorative justice and protection for vulnerable populations. It has been proven to be a challenge to get everyone to the table, and with this language we will be able to make real change together. Therefore, I respectfully ask for your aye vote on this bill, AB 3039. With me today I have one of our sponsors, Vina Nake, from the East Bay Community Law Center, and also joining me is Heather Doe, an impacted DSS applicant.
Thank you. And before we continue, I just wanted to make a note that as of 5:30 p.m. last night, an updated analysis for this bill was released. The updated version no longer contains suggested committee amendments. We were in my office till 5:30. I want to thank the committee for working, and thank you for coming over and being willing to have this discussion. So I look forward to that. So with that,
thank you for that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Rubio and committee members. My name is Vinitha Naik, and I'm an attorney at the East Bay Community Law Center. AB 3039 provides a fair chance to formerly incarcerated applicants for the Department of Social Services. Currently, the process is for any criminal conviction, despite age of the conviction, relatedness of the conviction, the prior work history, or any rehabilitation factors, that they must go through a lengthy exemption process that can take an average of 6 months or longer. Some of the clients who we have helped have had criminal convictions from over 40 years before. We see folks walking in the door all the time with convictions from 15, 20, 30 years ago, and they're still having to go through this process, whether it's been judicially dismissed, they've received clearances through in-home supportive services as a certified nursing assistant, or through the Board of Behavioral Sciences social workers when they're trying to work in facilities. The people who are disproportionately impacted are women of color, as African Americans are disproportionately impacted in the criminal justice system. The National Employment Law Project has data and studies that support the findings that after some time, whether it's 10 months after release or it's 6 to 7 years after release, the criminal record is not a reliable indicator of future criminal activity. As such, the legislature has found it is in the interest of public safety to assist in rehabilitation and to remove impediments to formerly incarcerated people. And at the East Bay Community Law Center, the Alameda County Public Defender's Office, and a New Way of Life Reentry Project in Los Angeles, we are very proud to say that the vast majority of clients who are seeking these exemptions are successful at the end of the day, which supports the presumption that DSS tends to heavily skew towards denying the exemption, or denying the application in the first place based on criminal history, but ultimately clearing the person and allowing them to work in the facility. I recognize that this conversation will continue to move forward to allow stakeholders to participate and to ensure that we're hearing all voices, and I thank you for that amendment last night. I just want to give my remaining time to Ms. Heather.
Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Heather, and the DSS initially turned me down in my request to work with children. I had a job at the front desk of a school. I really enjoyed my work there. The school wanted to keep me, and I wanted to work. The DSS said that based on my past misdemeanors, that I shouldn't work with children. My misdemeanors were approximately 5 to 10 years ago, all of which have been cleared in through the courts. My misdemeanors all resulted from my past drinking problem. My drinking stemmed from an abusive relationship and enormous pain, and eventually led me to homelessness. Through the grace of God and a lot of hard work, I have changed my life around and improved my situation. I will never go back to that low point of my life again. For the last 4 years, I've had my drinking under the control, and my behavior is no longer a problem. Again, the courts have dismissed all my convictions. I have 3 children, one being autistic. My autistic son's preschool teacher wanted to give me a job, but I have to, if I could get the DSS's permission to work there. I would love to work or even volunteer in my son's school, but I can't because of my past mistakes. I would also like to say that the DSS's application process to request permission to work should be revised to give people a fair chance to show what they're like today, not what they were in the past. All of this has been a depressing and demoralizing process. It makes it seem like the DSS does not want to find out whether you've changed, whether a person has changed, excuse me. I hope that the process can be made easier and that people like me who have moved past our mistakes can work in places that want to hire them. I feel that myself and others have a lot to offer and are still valuable. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, and God bless.
Thank you. Is there any other witnesses in support?
Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, in strong support.
Thank you.
Lizzie Buchan with the ACLU of California in support.
Thank you.
Erica Rincon on behalf of Policy Link and the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sadie Wathen from the Alameda County Public Defender's Office in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sabina Crossetti with All of Us Are None in strong support.
Thank you.
J.L. Myrick, East Bay Community Law Center, and we've got a coalition of 15 other organizations also in support.
Thank you.
Eva Dallaire with Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, also in support.
Thank you.
Kevin Asner and Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organization, strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any witnesses in opposition? Do you mind letting her sit, please? Thank you.
Madam Chair, we're just curious what the amendment is.
The amendment is essentially to continue, and you are?
I'm sorry. My name is Keisha Nzu with the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network.
Okay. It is to continue to work with Department DSS, but also to continue to work with others who had questions regarding the bill. There was clearly an opportunity that we were reaching out to DSS through this process to get them to the table for a variety of reasons. That did not happen, and so we're not minimizing some of the issues and concerns that need to be addressed, but given the time frame, we're trying to at least keep the bill moving forward and to be able to integrate committee's concerns as well.
Yes, so for clarification, the bill in print is what is in effect. There were some proposed amendments that we reneged on, and so we're moving the bill as is, with the assurances from the Assembly member that we will continue to work with DSS.
Okay. So again, I'm Keisha Nzui from the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network, and our concerns and opposition is based on what is in print, because we do feel like with the amendments that are proposed that it likely will address. But today we're talking about what's here, so I just want to express what our concerns are. So the network is named in Health and Safety Code to perform certain functions related to California's trust line background check. So we've contracted with either DSS or the Department of Justice since 1992 to perform these functions, and so we're very familiar with CDSS's background check for child care providers. So we wholeheartedly agree with the bill's intent as described by the sponsor and described by the author, but as the legislation is currently written, it prioritizes supporting adult wanting to be a caregiver over protecting children in child care arrangements. It eliminates 60 serious crime categories that are now considered non-exemptable, which includes felony convictions of murder, willful child cruelty, or human trafficking. Currently, individuals with convictions for any of these crimes are automatically denied the ability to provide child care. The bill would require DSS to consider individuals convicted of these serious and often violent felonies for an exemption and potentially allow these individuals to care for children. The bill also limits the department's ability to look at convictions and patterns of convictions, as was described earlier. So if a criminal conviction from 6 years or 10 years or 15 years ago would put a child at risk, they'd have the authority to initially deny that individual from being a child care provider and require that individual go through the exemption process and request a hearing if necessary. And then finally, CDSS's ability to look at all types of criminal convictions by only allowing crimes that are directly and adversely related crimes. When a child's well-being is at stake, DSS should have the authority to take in consideration of persons in full criminal history and determine based on the specifics of each conviction if that individual could pose a risk to the health and safety of a child. As proposed, the bill doesn't make major changes to the procedure for licensing foster family homes. We support that strongly, but we know that all children, whether they are cared for in a foster home or in a child care arrangement, deserve that same background check protections they currently receive under law. So, as we said, with the proposed amendments, we support the idea of reviewing and improving and increasing the efficiency and timeliness of the exemption process. And we encourage the development of a work group or a task force that includes all stakeholder groups, children's rights groups, parent advocacy groups, every stakeholder in this process to be able to come up with a solution and recommendations for DSS, which could include changes to the evaluator manual, training procedures, or other changes up to and including statute.
Thank you. And just again for clarification, the reason that we decided to put it through was because we had not had a conversation with DSS, and so that's what we're expecting. And so, Assemblymember Holden assured me that that would happen, and so for whatever reason the conversation DSS never came to the table, and so we want to make sure that we address that with them, with all the stakeholders on the at the table. So thank you, I appreciate your comments.
And if I could, the issues that you referred to on the non-exempt, I think it's our intention to accept that into the bill to make sure that those crimes are not or are measured appropriately, and so. Mm-hmm. We're on the same page.
I think so too.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lori Furstenfeld, and I'm a senior staff attorney at the Child Care Law Center. And like the Resource and Referral Network, we're in strong support of the intent of AB 3039 to create a more equitable process where persons with an arrest or conviction history do have a fair chance of employment and that they are not unfairly discriminated against. We have also submitted a letter of opposition unless amended based on the current language of the bill. We do feel that this intent also needs to be balanced with the rights of children to be cared for in a safe environment, which is why we have opposed the bill unless amended. California currently ranks at the very bottom for oversight of child care licensed facilities compared to other states. And the Federal Office of Child Care has worked arduously over the last few years to really improve the health and safety standards of child care across the United States. And Child Care Law Center has been an active participant in supporting these measures to increase the health and safety. We couldn't find any data, and the agency sponsor couldn't offer any research that would guarantee that scaling back the criminal background requirements would keep children just as safe, or if not safer, in childcare. I also want to highlight that eliminating the list of non-exemptable crimes also conflicts with the federal funding conditions under the Child Care Development Block Grant, our largest source of funding for child care in the state, and also provisions of the Title 4E funding source for child care. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition?
Teresa Anderson with the ARC and UCP California Collaboration. We don't have an official position on the bill at this time, but we have talked to the author's office about our concerns and look forward to continuing those conversations to ensure that all vulnerable populations are protected in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back up to the committee for questions. Assemblymember Reyes.
Assemblymember Holden, first I want to thank you and the sponsors of the bill. You're working on a really complex but very important issue. You and I are joint authors on AB 1008 from last year, and I'm also authoring a bill sponsored by the same coalition and working on the same subject, second chances. Without a doubt, I'm a firm believer in second chances. And I mentioned to you earlier that I think that it is really important that the provisions in the bill adequately protect the vulnerable communities, specifically the children, as was being talked about. I'm concerned about the language regarding the violent felonies, and I know that you're already working on that. I understand that you're going to be working further on the bill's provisions, and I want to offer my office as a resource to you as you continue to work with the committee and the stakeholders. I want to ensure that the opposition's concerns regarding vulnerable individuals, specifically the children, are addressed so that we get the bill right. And I'm committed to working with you because this is part of an entire coalition to make sure that we do provide second chances.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Choi?
Yeah, I share the same concern. It's always pros and cons when we allow the employment pool above and beyond 5 years. Whether there has been, I think I heard that there's no statistics. Is that true that previous offenders would not recommit a similar crime? Do you have any such data that by extending 5 years is not a magical period? It's more of a human character or tendency. Some may change, some may still retain either 5 years or 6 years. So how can you be sure just because, why not 3 years? Why not 2 years? So where did you come up with the 5-year period?
Well, we're working off of the standard, which is 7 years for private institutions. So we're sort of looking at that and using that as sort of a benchmark. I think it's what we're also looking for DSS to do is to start to collect data so that we'll have a better understanding of how affected communities and individuals and character or people that we need to actually have that data to help us. If we had it, it would make this a little bit easier presentation this afternoon. But I think what we're hoping is that we can have them move forward, going forward, to look at the various demographic characteristics and help to start to profile, if you will, how these populations are impacted, and we're using a standard on the 7 years and we're using 5 years, but 7 years as the kind of the benchmark. But turn to the.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Choi. Just to talk about it from the earlier side of things, there's actually data that supports that 10 months after recidivism, your rate of recidivism drops by half, and that subsequently continues to drop every 10 months. There's also data from the National Employment Law Project that states 6 to 7 years after contact with law enforcement, where you have had no contact in the intervening years, your record is the same as somebody else without a criminal conviction, and the rate of recidivism is minimal in comparison to someone without a record. As Assemblymember Holden mentioned, there are protections under the labor code provisions where private employers cannot consider convictions past 7 years. There's also washout periods in the in-home supportive services laws where they limit it to 10 years. So we settled on 5 as something that felt like it was in the middle of 7 years, but also recognizing that there's data that supports that 10 months after a conviction, if somebody has not recidivated, their rate of recidivism has already dropped 50% and will continue to drop. And just to note that having employment is the strongest predictor to further preventing recidivism.
Thank you. Any other questions? Assemblymember Thurman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the author. I think this is the right thing to do. I was just hoping that you could clarify. I had trouble following the we're doing the amendments, we're not doing the amendments, and what that really means, and we're still working on it. I don't really know what that refers to, and I'm just wondering if someone could just say, I'm kind of a simple person, if someone could just say in plain language that if those amendments speak to if a person has ever committed a crime that was related to the harming of a child, would that disqualify them from this consideration, or is that something that couldn't be reviewed? Perhaps you could just provide me some clarity so that we're all on the same page about what's amended, not amended, or where we're headed.
Fair enough. What we presented as our bill moving into this committee is what is before you. The committee, the chair and committee staff made some additional suggestions, and that was one of them, and we have every intention of moving forward and taking that. What we wanted to do is move the bill forward because there are a variety of pieces that need to be adjusted, and we wanted to get DSS's input on a lot of this conversation, which we have not had the opportunity to do.
I think I'm up to speed. If I heard it, tell me if I heard it wrong, but what you said is you're going to work with DSS and the committee staff and the chair, and that your intent is to articulate some type of a policy that if a crime was specifically committed to endangerment or harming a child, that would have to be reviewed. Did I hear it right?
Yes, well, all vulnerable populations, but
all vulnerable
definitely
populations.
as it relates to the testimony. Yeah.
Understood. Very helpful. Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to move the bill.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion by Assemblymember Thurman, a second by Assemblymember Reyes, and the recommendation is due pass to appropriations. If you can call the roll, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to close?
Well, no, I think that would be my close. I just say thank you again to the committee and appreciate your working with us on this.
Thank you.
And I accept Assemblymember Reyes's offer also to be a part of the
She should check
conversation.
with her office staff first. I'm just checking.
Although I will say I'm a little confused because in the other committee you were actually Rubio and you were.
Yes. Thank you. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
No.
Dr. Choi, no. Arambula? Mainshine? Reyes?
Aye.
Reyes, aye. Stone? Stone, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. The bill is out.
Bill's out. 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mathis.
Good work. Hey, great testimony. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Mathis.
Thank you. Madam Chair and committee members, I'm here today to present AB 1990, a bill that will ensure affordable and integrated housing options for our intellectual and developmentally disabled communities. As you are aware, the state's remaining developmental centers will be closing by 2021. As such, the current residents of the centers will be transitioning into our communities and are in need of housing options. In addition, many adult regional center clients currently living in the community also struggle to find affordable and independent housing options. The vast majority of adult regional center clients rely solely on SSI or SSP for their income at a maximum of $911 per month. Average rent, food, healthcare costs, etc. often exceed this amount. This presents regional center clients with few options for independent housing. Housing is one of the greatest challenges facing our state, and the situation is especially dire for our people with disabilities, who often rely, again, on SSI or SSP as their only source of income. Throughout the state, community providers are reporting that near impossibility of securing housing for their clients, as well as the devastating stories of individuals who already have housing, who have already lost their housing due to its increased prices. As such, more must be done to provide these individuals with the option to live independently within our communities. Currently, a portion of the site at Fairview Developmental Center is run as Harbor Village, a mixed resident community which serves a mandated percentage of people with developmental disabilities. This model has proven extremely effective at providing housing options for individuals transferring out of the state's remaining DCs, as well as individuals already in the community in need of affordable housing. Furthermore, these sites have been found to generate surplus revenues, which are ultimately funneled back to the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, to increase services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Utilizing and expanding upon this model, AB 1990 will establish the California Integrated Community Living Program within DDS. This program will provide loans to cover the costs associated with the construction and permanent supportive housing for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Ultimately, this bill ensures that the funding currently provided to our intellectual and developmental disabled community remains with the clients rather than returning to the general fund. Members, this is key. We cannot allow this vital funding to be taken away from our disabled community. Rather, we should proactively capture and utilize these funds to ensure adequate access to housing options for our disabled community, along with residents currently in need of affordable housing options. Without the proactive approach outlined within this measure, these individuals will continue to be ostracized. With me today is Patty Uplinger with Housing Now and the Lanterman Housing Alliance. Patty.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity, Madam Chair and Committee. Patty Uplinger, and I'm the Executive Director of Housing Now. We're local, we cover 10 counties and provide housing resources for this particular population. We're also a member of the Lanterman Housing Alliance, which is a statewide group that does housing for people with IDD. And you hear it, the housing crisis. It is tremendous out there. These folks in this book on legacy, I was at the California Supported Living Network and provided 3 housing sessions for people in attendance. These are lucky ones, lucky folks that have already been able to avoid an institution and live in the community. But it's really getting very difficult, and I can paint the picture of the housing market. Just in January, I was preparing for an interview, and I talked as a housing specialist. I'm also a housing specialist for this population. I talked to an agency, and they said, well, Patty, I've got 15 people that need to find housing by March. The reason is because landlords, maybe apartments that are under new ownership, no longer will accept the Housing Choice Voucher Program, as well as people are priced out. Especially in Sacramento, we had the highest rising rents in the nation last year. So people with developmental disabilities should be able to live in the community. I have an example of a person that Sonoma is on the way being closed, Sonoma Developmental Center, and this individual who wants to live and needs to move into the community, we're having trouble, and we've been looking for months to try and find appropriate housing in the community for him. Like Assembly Member mentioned, most people that we try to find housing for are on supplemental security income, $900. Just in Sacramento County, a one-bedroom is $916. If you don't have some sort of subsidized housing, you're not going to make it in the community. There's a lot of competition for these resources, the very limited resources that we have that subsidize housing, whether it's housing choice vouchers or tax credit properties or bond housing or other subsidized housing that's deeply subsidized for people that are extremely low income. That's what we need. This money has been identified for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and as these developmental centers close, the money should follow these individuals into the community to provide appropriate community resources for them as far as their housing is concerned. So and I think that we could leverage some of this funds to marry with the tax credits and make it competitive so that we get more housing set aside for this population. Even No Place Like Home money, that's for people with mental illness, and people with developmental disabilities don't necessarily have a mental illness. So we need funding and we need housing now, and I ask you respectfully for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. Any other witnesses in support?
My name is Sidney Jackson from the Association of Regional Center Agencies, ARCA, and ARCA is in support of this bill.
Thank you.
Teresa Anderson with the ARC and UCP California in support.
Thank you.
Barry Giardini, California Disability Services Association, in support.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Okay, hearing none. I'll bring it up to the committee. Any questions from the committee? Okay.
Just to comment, Assemblymember Mathis, I thank you for taking a proactive approach to this. It's clearly going to become a problem. It needs to be addressed, and I think you've come up with a good solution to it, and I thank you for that. And with that, I move the bill.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion by Assemblymember Reyes, second by Dr. Choi. Let's see, would you like to close?
Yes, members. Again, this is a vitally important step. I just want to make it clear. You know, we're talking about a population that's been taken care of in the developmental centers, and as this realignment is happening, the housing that they've been at is no longer going to be there. So this ensures that as they're moving into the community, the funding's following them. It's the right thing to do, and on top of that, we all know that we have a housing crisis. We have these issues going on, and this gives, quite frankly, the ability, and I've been down to Harbor Village, it's a beautiful campus, but it gives us the ability in each one of our communities to develop our own Harbor Village, to take care of our own disabled populations within our communities, to truly bring them in, truly integrate them, and treat them how they deserve, and that way they have access to affordable housing. So with that, I ask you for your aye vote. I'm also open for co-authors as well.
Thank you. With that, I have a motion and a second, and the recommendation is to pass to Assembly Appropriations. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi? Aye. Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Stone? Stone, aye. Thurman? The bill is out 6-0.
Okay, the bill is out 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Assemblymember Mainshine.
Okay, now we got Mr. Mainshine.
Ready to go?
Thank you. I have a motion by Assemblymember Stone, second by Assemblymember Reyes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members, and in light of the motion and the second, I'll be brief. I will be accepting the committee's suggested amendments. When household incomes aren't enough to meet basic needs, temporary aid from CalFresh can often bridge the gap. In fact, it's one of our nation's most effective tools against hunger. In San Diego County alone, nearly 60,000 households enrolled in Medi-Cal through CalHERS in 2017. Covered California's online application portal is a primary way that low-income Californians apply for Medi-Cal health benefits. AB 3033 will allow individuals applying for Medi-Cal through Covered California who also wish to apply for CalFresh benefits to have their application qualify for both programs. By using the existing systems to streamline the CalFresh process, we can make it easier for eligible people in need to access food. With me to testify in support of the bill is Kevin Aslanian, the Executive Director for the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Kevin Aslanian, Coalition California Welfare Rights Organization. I'll be very lengthy. This is a very good bill. Makes it more efficient.
You got 2
And
minutes.
I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Okay, any witnesses in opposition? Okay, seeing none, any questions from the committee? Okay, I have a motion by Assemblymember Stone, a second by Assemblymember Reyes, and the recommendation is do pass as amended to appropriations. Can you call it? Oh, would you like to?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you. Can you call the roll, please?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi? Aye. Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Stone? Stone, aye. Thurman? The bill is out 5-0.
The bill is out 5-0. Thank you. And my turn.
6 and 7.
Which one do we start with?
take it off. Which one? This is mine.
Okay.
Okay, Assemblyman Rubio.
Thank you. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
AB 2183.
Yes. Yes. Actually, can we start with 2326, please? I have two bills. Can we start with 2326?
Yeah, go ahead. The
Thank
first
you.
one, 2183.
She wants to do
Oh, oh.
2326, number 7.
Okay.
Yeah, it's number 6 first.
Okay.
Can you let her do? She wants to
No.
go in reverse order, so
Or-
2326.
My witnesses are here for 2326.
Okay, you're going to do AB 2326?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. Today I'm presenting AB 2326, which allows parents or caregivers who have a child 24 months of age or younger and pregnant women who are the sole members of their assistant units to be exempted from the CalWorks Welfare to Work Employment Program and instead giving them the opportunity, the option to volunteer to participate. As numerous studies have demonstrated, infancy is an important time for brain development. Thus, this bill comes in acknowledgement of the important role we know early bonding time can have on a child's long-term health. By exempting these CalWork families from welfare to work activities and instead providing them with the option of volunteering, we are empowering them with the ability to choose what is best for their own special circumstances and for the needs of their families. Here today is our sponsor, Kevin Aslan, with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights, and Michelle Stilwell. I can't pronounce her last name.
Children's Defense Fund.
From the Children's Defense Fund. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Kevin Aslan, Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations. Under current law, if you have a baby for 12 months, 12 weeks, the county may exempt you. They may extend that to 6 months. And then you could also be exempt for 24 months. So it's very, very complex. Also, if you're 19 years old, you don't have a high school diploma, you get no exemption at all. And you get sanctioned if you give birth to your baby on Thursday, you don't go to work fair the next day, you could get sanctioned. You could be punished for this. So this simplifies this process, and it says anybody who has a child under the age of 2 shall be exempt. However, they also get a notice saying that you're going to be exempt, and also a plan where they can volunteer to participate. They can indicate on there what they want to do and when they want to do it, and within 30 days, the county has to approve that proposed plan. In addition to that, every 6 months when they get a notice, report, what they call income reports every 6 months, they also get a notification that they can volunteer to participate. And that also happens annually. So this is to simplify the process. And right now, under current law, if you want to be exempt, you could be, all you have to do is call your worker and be exempt. But that takes, that's bureaucratically cumbersome, and it costs money. This will save money and will simplify the process. And I urge you, I vote. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Stoll-Parvensky, Children's Defense Fund, California, here in support. We know that the first 2 years of life are incredibly important for our infants. New parenting is very hard, and those challenges are compounded by deep poverty. We should be providing families that are in the CalWorks program with the option to have the time to bond with their child, and we know that that is effective for helping that child develop in the way that we want to, allowing the mothers to be able to breastfeed if they choose to do so. All of these are options that our families should have because we know that it's so important for child development. Urge and I vote. Thank you.
Okay, moved in the seconded. Any other people in support? Okay, anyone in opposition? Okay. Any members would like any questions? I do have a question. Now I know, since I just became a grandfather.
Congratulations again.
My daughter with a baby.
Yes.
And she's taking care of my grandchild, how important period it is from 6 months to 2 years.
This will expand the financial obligation. I know 2 years is probably important period. That's the reason you picked. It's quite a jump from 6 months to 2 years. So is there any other justifications you can provide for recommending for 2 years?
Well, current law is 2 years. The current law allows you to be exempt if the child is up to 2 years. If the child is under 24 months old, you can be exempt from participating in the Welfare to Work program. All you have to do is call up the worker and ask the worker to be exempt. And this is the 21st century, where no longer can you call the worker and they pick up the phone and they talk to you. You have call centers. It's hard to reach your worker. So people don't get, they cannot access the welfare system to be exempt. So this simply simplifies the system, says you are exempt, and if you want to participate, then you can participate. So the exemption is automatic. You don't have to ask for it, if that makes any sense.
So how does this bill help if there is such a law?
Existing law? What is that? I'm sorry.
You said there's already law requires a 24 months exemption period.
Right, but you have to request it. You have to opt into it. And I mean, you have to call up and ask the worker that I want to be exempt. They don't automatically exempt you. We have a whole bunch of children, moms with kids under 24 months old, participating in the Welfare Work program and leaving their babies at home with somebody who doesn't know what to do with the children, and because they didn't know that they could be exempt. So this bill automatically exempts them from the program, makes it simple for the client.
I mean, when they are in need, can they simply ask?
Yeah, it's easy to ask, but you call up the worker. I mean, in Sacramento, you call up 874-3200, and it goes through a big phone tree. And you're on the phone tree for 2-3 hours, you can never get to your worker. It's not easy. But 20 years ago, it was easy. You called up, they picked up the phone and said, "Hi, what do you want? I want to be exempt." Okay, fine. But it doesn't work that way anymore. They have big caseloads, not enough workers.
Okay, any other question? All right, would you like to close?
Yes, thank you. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, why don't you call the roll?
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Thank you. Aye. Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Aye. Reyes, aye. Stone? Aye. Stone, aye. Thurman? Bill is out 5-0.
Thank you.
You have one more?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yes, thank you. Today I'm presenting AB 2183, which initiates foster care funding at the time that a family has met health and safety standards required in federal law. AB 2183 provides support to resource parents and the children in their care, therefore preventing financial hardship from causing further trauma to these children. The need for this funding fix for the resource families cannot be understated. The RFA process is taking far longer than anticipated to complete, and the average family spends well over 90 days waiting for approval. Here with me today is Angie Schwartz with the Alliance for Children's Rights and Caregivers, and Selena Alvarez, who can both testify about how problematic these delays have been for families and how great of a need there is to initiate funding at the time of placement. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Selena Alvarez, and I live in Sacramento, California. On March 7th, 2017, at 11:45 p.m., my wife and I received emergency placement of our 3 nieces and nephews, ages 6, 11, and 15. The children arrived at our home with only their school bags and 1 bag of clothing. The RFA worker told us she would start the process for us to apply for Yolo County for CalWORKS as non-needy relatives, as we were not yet RFA approved. Turns out that information was incorrect since we live in Sacramento, even though the placement and the children's services were from Yolo County. A month later, we were told to apply on our own in Sacramento County, which we did, and we did not receive any retro payment for the first month. We started the RFA process the following week of placement. At the time, Yolo County had 30-hour training requirement, which we completed. In addition to our CPR class and application and live scan, we completed all of that within 6 weeks. After that, we waited and waited for what felt like forever. The RFA worker at the time was extremely swamped. It took about 3 months for me to have my in-person interview and another month for my wife to have hers. We were eventually approved in the last week of September, 6 months after placement, and we received our first payment in mid-October. Taking in 3 children from kindergarten to 9th grade is a huge financial and personal undertaking. The kids were worried that they would have to change schools, but we assured them they would not. Luckily, I worked in Woodland, so taking the kids to school in Davis wasn't completely out of the way for me. I did notice that my gasoline bill has doubled. My wife and I had to make many sacrifices and take time off from work in order to support the 3 children living with us. My wife decided to take Family Medical Leave Act in mid-March for the maximum of 3 months to help ensure the children's successful transition into our home. However, FMLA only pays about 50% of your earnings, so her payments were low. I'm lucky enough to work for a nonprofit that values family time, so I was able to take off and use my sick time to accommodate for the children's appointments, twice weekly visits, therapy appointments, medical, dental, and court dates. Although we made it work, it wasn't without a financial toll. Being that the youngest was in kindergarten and only went to school from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., this proved to be a big challenge. We were told that the child care subsidy had run out for the fiscal year, so we would need to figure out something else on our own and pay for child care out of pocket. The before and after school care was outrageously expensive, so we opted for the morning only care 3 days a week. This cost far exceeded the CalWORKs that we received for him, but it had to be done. When summer came around, we had to find childcare, and my coworker recommended summer camp through the city. Though we were able to get scholarships through iFoster, we still spent over $1,000 to send the kids to summer camp. I continue to see this issue impacting families I work with in my professional life as well. I work as a sexual assault victim advocate, and I work with foster parents who are struggling due to the lack of financial support. These families are trying to do the right thing by taking these children in, and it isn't right or fair for them to have zero financial support, especially for the non-extended family members who don't even qualify for CalWORKs. Taking placement of a child who has already undergone occurrences of abuse and neglect on an emergency basis without foster care funding puts tremendous financial strain on relatives and non-extended family members who accept these children as emergency placement. See, that's a long sentence, sorry. Before the completion, who accept the children before the completion of the RFA process. I fully support, let's see, financial process are real. Thank you for your opportunity to talk with you today and share my story. I respectfully urge you to pass AB 2183.
Hi, Angie Schwartz, Policy Director of the Alliance for Children's Rights. I'll be really brief. I know that last month the legislature took action to stem the crisis faced by thousands and thousands of families like Selena's from across the state who were caring for children before approval and not receiving any financial assistance. That interim solution expires on June 30th, and AB 2183 builds on the success of that interim solution. It uses the same mechanism in that interim solution in order to make sure it becomes the long-term solution so that we don't have any other families in our state taking in children, doing exactly what we want them to do, stepping up, caring for children that need a home, being that family member, and facing the financial crisis that thousands of our families have faced. It's a necessary fix. It's a great fix, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other people in support?
Brenda Dabney with the Children's Law Center of California in full support.
Kelly Brooks on behalf of the County Welfare Directors Association. We support paying caregivers from the time of placement, and we're pleased with the solution in AB 110. This is an ongoing conversation with the administration, and we appreciate the bill continuing to move forward so the policy discussion can continue to occur.
Hi, Kathy Van Austin on behalf of the John Burton Advocates for Youth. I'm in strong support of the bill.
Any witnesses in opposition? Anyone who would like to testify? In opposition? No? Any questions from the members? Go ahead.
Thank you so much for bringing this. I met with so many of the foster youth and with those who took them in, and I want to thank your witness for stepping up. I appreciate you very much. And I thank you you beat me to it, and thank you for allowing me to be a joint author, co-author.
Thank you.
And we've already moved the bill.
Yeah.
Any other? Has been, okay, go ahead, Mr. Tubman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, thank you for bringing this bill. You know, the state has a great tradition of trying to support resource families, and last year I did a bill that focused on child care subsidies for resource families to help build the bridge to do similar to yours, addressing timing and challenges to make sure that children can be in healthy, supportive placements. So thank you. This continues to be a challenging and vexing problem. Thank you for your leadership here. Happy to support your bill. Thank you.
Any other? Okay. Do you have a closing statement?
Yes, thank you. We talk about this issue all the time, and just for statistics-wise, there's 800 kids right now in LA County that don't have placement, and not being able to pay the families, it adds another layer of burden to those families that are willing to step up, and some of them don't because they can't afford it. So this will help ensure that some of these kids get placement, and so I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, motion has been made. When it passes, it goes to Appropriations Committee?
Yeah, do pass to
Okay,
the Appropriations
please.
Committee.
Yeah.
Rubio?
Aye.
Rubio, aye. Dr. Choi?
Aye.
Dr. Choi, aye. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Stone? Stone, aye. Thurman? Thurman, aye. The bill is out 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's all of the bills. We are opening the roll for add-ons. I'm sorry? Yes, please.
On the consent calendar, item number 1, AB 1930, by Assemblymember Stone, due pass to appropriations. Item number 8, AB 2331, by Assemblymember Weber, due pass as amended to the appropriations. Item number 12, AB 2702, Assemblymember McCarty, due pass as amended to the appropriations. Item number 13, AB 2821, Mays, due pass to the appropriations. Item number 14, AB 2905, Assemblymember Acosta, due pass to the appropriations. Item number 15, AB 2933, Assemblymember Medina, due pass to the appropriations. Item number 21, AB 3098, Assemblymember Friedman, due pass to the appropriations. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Item number 2, AB 1990, Assemblymember Mathis, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Thurman? Thurman, aye. Item number 3, AB 2111, Assemblymember Quirk, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Item number 4, AB 2152, Assemblymember Weber, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Item number 5, AB 2171, Assemblymember Frazier, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Arambula, aye. Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Reyes, aye. Item number 6, AB 2183, Assemblymember Rubio. Arambula? Arambula, aye. Item number 23, Item number 7, AB 2326, Assemblymember Rubio, due pass to the appropriations. Arambula? Arambula, aye. Thurman? Thurman, aye. Item number 9, AB 2340, Assemblymember Friedman, Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. That's a due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Mainshine? Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Aye. Reyes, aye. Item number 10, AB 2455, Assemblymember Calra, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? No. Mainshine, no. Item number 11, AB 2605, Assemblymember Gibson, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Item number 16, AB 2960, Assemblymember Thurman, the motion to pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Item number 17, AB 3006, Assemblymember Stone. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. Item number 18, AB 3033, Assemblymember Mainshine. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. Item number 19, AB 3039, Assemblymember Holden, due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? No. Mainshine, no. Item number 20, AB 3074, Assemblymember Frazier, to pass to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine?
This is 3074?
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Reyes? Aye. Reyes, aye. Item number 22 is pulled by the author. Item number 23, AB 3224, Assemblymember Thurman. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Mainshine? Mainshine, not voting. And we're done.
No, we aren't. We consent in 1 and 2 through 3. He's still.
Oh, consent. Sorry.
Number 12? That was,
Oh, it's on consent. It was put on consent.
Okay, should I read them all over again? No.
just the consent.
Consent calendar. Arambula?
Aye.
Arambula, aye.
And then items 2, 3, 4.
Yes, I know. Item number 2, AB 1990 Mathis, due pass to the Appropriations. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Item number 3, AB 2111, Assemblymember Cork, due pass to the Appropriations. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. Item number 4, AB 2152, Assemblymember Weber, due pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Arambula? Aye. Arambula, aye. We're done.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're adjourned at 4:25. Thank you.